Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to another weekly astrology forecast. This is for the week of May 17th. This week is going to be the biggest week of May, so we are going to be having a lot of energetic shifts happening. It's not going to be super intense comparatively to what we experienced earlier this year, especially in April and in March. But this week will be one of the biggest weeks of this month before we get into June, where things are finally going to start to feel a little bit lighter. But we will get into that in the next following astrology update videos. This week, though, the biggest energy shifts that are going to be happening, let's just go over all of them at once, and then I'll dive into deeper what this means on a more personal level and what you can expect. So on Sunday, the first major shift we're having is Mercury is moving into the sign of Gemini. So finally, Mercury is going back at home, and that's going to be one of our first major energetic shifts. Next, on Monday, we're having Mars move into the sign of Taurus and Venus move into the sign of Cancer. So within 2 days, we're already having 3 planets shifting energy and changing signs. Then, 2 days later, on Wednesday, we're having the Sun moving into the sign of Gemini. So another planet shifting energy that same week. And then on Friday, we are ending the week with Sun conjunct Uranus. This is going to be the most spicy one of the entire week. So let's dive into a little bit and break it down to see what energy, how can we see this play out in our lives on a more practical sense. So, as I was mentioning earlier, Mercury is moving into the sign of Gemini right at the beginning of the week, and within just a few hours later, we are having Mars move into Taurus and Venus move into Cancer. These are a lot of energetic shifts that are happening in just a very short amount of time, so the beginning of the week can feel a little bit crazy, hectic, can feel a little flip-floppy at first. It is going to feel a little bit different from what we've been used to these last few weeks. Mercury is at home in the sign of Gemini though, so I do see this as a more positive transit. We have had Mercury in the sign of Taurus. It's very grounded, very stable, very secure. It's not a bad placement for Mercury to be in, but now Mercury being at home in the sign of Gemini, things should be going a lot smoother when it comes to our communication. People can maybe even speak more quickly, more abruptly. You suddenly feel like you have a lot more creative energy, and communication and speaking ability is just comes so much more easily to you now, especially if you have any placements in the air signs. So if you are a Gemini, an Aquarius, or a Libra, this is going to be highly beneficial for you guys. And also, honorable mention goes to Virgo, because Virgo is also ruled by the sign Mercury. So having your planetary placement be in its second home, it feels comfortable for you as well. Mercury also rules things like cars and markets, like financial markets. So we may notice a lot more things happening in the financial markets. Could be ups, could be downs. I would say it would be a little bit more erratic, simply because when Mercury enters the sign of Gemini, it will be making a very close conjunction to Uranus, which is just moved into the sign of Gemini. So this is one of the biggest themes of this week. The fact that Mercury is moving into Gemini and the Sun is moving into Gemini, and they're both going to be meeting Uranus in the sign of Gemini for the first time in over 80 years, right? Because Uranus has just recently moved into the sign of Gemini. This is a very recent transit. It hasn't really been aspected by any other planets like this by conjunction up until this point. So this is going to be giving us a quick glimpse and insight as to what these next 7 years with Uranus in the sign of Gemini is going to be bringing us. I did do a full deep dive of Uranus in Gemini, going sign by sign to see how it would be affecting you over these next 7 years. You could take a look at that on my page if you haven't done so already. But once again, within the first few days of this week, we will be getting these flashes of insights. The markets can go erratically up or down because that's what Uranus does. Uranus is either extreme losses or extreme gains. It is very unpredictable. It's not something that astrologers could be like, oh yeah, this is going to be absolutely amazing, or yeah, it's going to be catastrophic, because it could be a little bit of both. That's kind of how Uranus works. But since Mercury is a quick moving planet, towards the end of the week, Mercury will have already passed Uranus and it won't be as intense. but we will get into the sun meeting with Uranus towards the end of the week. So we are having a lot of Uranus transits happening this week, which once again can be chaos, can be disruption, can be wild upswings, wild downswings. Overall, the signs most affected by this transit will be Gemini, Pisces, Virgo, and Sagittarius. If you have any planets within the first like 5 to 10 degrees of your sign, you will be feeling this type of chaotic shifting energy in the beginning of the week, well, throughout the week, more so than the other signs, because it's going to be happening in more powerful places in your chart. As we move into Monday, we are having Mars move into Taurus. Now, since Mars has been in the sign of Aries, Aries is its home sign, people would say that it functions better there, and generally it does. But the fact that we have also had Saturn move into Aries, we've also had Neptune in the sign of Aries, we've had so much stuff, and we've had Chiron in the sign of Aries as well. So many very heavy placements, planets in the sign of Aries, and Mars being there as well, it kind of made it difficult. It honestly wasn't an easy Mars transit, even though Mars does like being in there. It was very intense for a lot of people that aren't used to this much Aries energy. So the fact that Mars is now moving into the sign of Taurus, yes, it is the sign of its fall because it is opposite to Scorpio, its other rulership. It moves slower there. Mars likes to move quick and fast. Taurus likes to move nice and slow and take its time and really plan things out. So it is a little bit of a push and pull type of energy. It's not allowing Mars to express itself completely. However, we are moving away from all of the Saturn, the Neptune, the Chiron that has been in the sign of Aries for so long. So it's kind of shifting one type of heaviness for another type of heaviness. And overall, I do think it's going to be and feeling much better simply because we also have Venus moving into the sign of Cancer that same day, and because of that, these two planets are going to be making what's known as a sextile. This is a positive, harmonious type of aspect. It's not the most harmonious aspect, but they're speaking to each other in harmony, so they're supporting each other and they're helping each other. One good thing is that Venus being in the sign of Cancer, making aspect to Mars in the sign of Taurus, Taurus is the home sign of Venus. So Venus is essentially talking to Mars and being like, yo, you're in my home. I'm going to tell you and explain to you how this works. I understand it's not really your space. This is not really where you like to be. It's not really the type of energy that you like being in, but let me just give you the quick rundown, you know? So they're in communication, they're speaking to each other. Mars is getting some tips, some pointers on how to better work with this energy in a way that is constructive. So overall, even though Mars doesn't necessarily like being in the sign of Taurus, I do think at least with these two planets speaking in harmony to each other is going to help buffer this energy and make it work in a more constructive way. Now, 2 days later, as we go on throughout the week, we will have the sun moving into the sign of Gemini, and this already brings it in very close proximity to Uranus in the sign of Gemini. The sun moving into Gemini, you know, happy birthdays to Geminis, happy Gemini season. It's all about being flexible, about being open, communicative. I would definitely be mindful that you're grounding this energy. We do have Mars in Taurus, so this is going to be great to help stabilize the what can be somewhat chaotic type of energy of Gemini, especially when it's linking up with Uranus. However, when I do think of Gemini and Uranus together, I do think of like mad scientist type of energy. This is a person who is extremely smart, intellectual, thinking about things like way beyond where we currently are, right? So it's seeing very far into the future, being able to see the possibilities, and even being able to take action on it, communicate them as well, because obviously Gemini is all about communication, it's all about expression. So being able to communicate your ideas, your visions for the future, no matter how crazy they may sound, at least write them down, get them out there. For this week, I do feel like there's overall a very communicative, flexible, wanting to explore new boundaries and talk about possibilities for the future, things that may seem a little bit out there, things that may seem maybe too far from where we are right now. I do feel like there may be a lot of talk about AI. Um, there might be some big news coming out with AI throughout this week, or even something that affects the markets very intensely. So I would definitely keep an eye out for that. Overall, this week is looking pretty good, I would say. We do have a lot of energy shifting, so it may feel a little destabilizing as we're starting to feel and get more comfortable in these new energies that we're diving into. But it is bringing a new sense of understanding, a new sense of awareness, awakening, if you will, because Uranus is the great awakener and it will be aspected very heavily this week. Lots of intuitive insights, lots of ideas of how we're going to move forward, especially right coming off of this new moon in Taurus, where we have thought about the future and how we want things to be more stable and more grounded. Now we're starting to get the insights, the intuitions, the channelings from a higher source of what that future vision looks like and how to use our creativity to achieve those goals. Because I don't think we're going to get there in ways that we're typically used to doing. We're going to get there in ways that are unconventional and different, and perhaps using a lot of this new technology that is set to be released or even spoken about within this Gemini season, because I really do feel like this Gemini season is going to bring a lot of news in the AI space and developments in the technologies. Let me know down below what your sun, moon, and rising are. Let me know how you've been feeling these energies these past few weeks. This week is going to have a much bigger impact on the mutable signs, I would say. So, as I mentioned earlier, Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, and Sagittarius, especially within the beginning of those signs, the first 10 degrees, we are going to notice a little bit of energy coming from Taurus and Cancer as well. So there's going to be some shifting energies moving into there as well. But overall, I think Cancers are mostly out of the mud because Venus is now moving into their sign. Jupiter is also in their sign. Those are the two benefic planets. Cancer, y'all, you're getting ready for your season. Your season is going to be something else. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But mainly if you have those planets that I was speaking about, those placements that I was speaking about, you're going to be feeling these shifts more intensely than anyone else. Now, as I usually do, I like to close out my astrology readings with a tarot card pull. I like to pull cards for the overall energy of the week, an advice card, and a challenge card for the collective. So this is the Animal Tarot, is one of my favorite decks. It's been resonating so hard with me lately, so I'm going to pull an overall energy card for the week. So for the overall energy of the week, I find this to be really funny, and I'm going to explain why. We got the Two of Winter. So it's these two little, I can't ever say, they're wiener dogs. The Dachshund, I can't say their actual names. Two wiener dogs. But I find it funny because of all this Gemini energy that we're having this week, and it's literally two wieners. They're quite literally twins, except one has poofy long hair, the other one is short hair. It says, procrastination and worrying what others will think is blocking you from making a decision. If you're torn between your own desires and someone else's, follow your inner guidance. So that's one thing that definitely comes up with Gemini energy, because remember, Gemini is the twins. So sometimes it can lead, like any of the signs that are heavily relating to other people, so like Libras, Geminis, Aquarius, the air signs mainly, those signs usually have a harder time with people pleasing because they're able to see other people and feel them, and they kind of like want to reflect back to them what they're seeing. And that's exactly what Gemini is. Sometimes Gemini, they can come off as two-faced or even like as fake because they're so easy to just shift and change depending on the situation that they're with, or the people that they're with, and the situation that they're in. Sorry, I'm like stumbling over my words right now. So I would definitely, keep that in mind with all this energy shifting into Gemini, that you're staying true and grounded to who you are. Don't let yourself get swayed by the opinions of others about what other people want you to do, because it's so easy for other people to like maybe guilt or shame or make you feel bad for wanting the things that you want. remember to stay true within yourself. Yes, it's okay to care about other people's feelings. Yes, it's okay to care about how your actions affect other people. Of course, you should care about that stuff, but making sure that you're also respecting yourself and you're respecting your boundaries and you're doing things that feel good to you as well. You aren't abandoning yourself for the benefit of other people. Now I'm going to pull a challenge card for the week. Oh. This is so cute. I don't know why it came out as a challenge card. I'm gonna like reflect over it a little bit, but look at this little guy. He's so cute. A little Pomeranian. Look at his little face. It is the Nine of Summer, so I believe this represents the Nine of Pentacles in the typical tarot. It says, now is the time when your dreams come true. Don't worry about how this will happen. Just give gratitude to God for all that you have and all that is still yet to come. And we got two cards actually that came up as challenge cards, which is interesting because they're two very powerful, very positive cards. So I'm like, is there any challenge this week? Because both challenge cards came out positive. This one's the Gypsy Horse, the King of Autumn. Look how beautiful. You can see obviously all the abundance there. So it says everything is going to turn out great. Projects will be stunningly successful, exciting new career opportunities are possible, and money or resources that come your way will be invested wisely. So, girl, I don't know. I was going for a challenge card, and both of these cards are absolutely positive. I think what it's trying to say is that the biggest challenge this week is maybe keeping your head up and staying positive and remind yourself that your dreams will come true and don't worry about how it will happen. Just give gratitude for all that you have and what is yet to come. Keeping a positive attitude, remaining and keeping your hopes high. Okay, let's pick one final advice card for this week and see what comes out. And finally, for the advice card of the week, we have the Ace of Winter. It is the panda bear. I love pandas. Look at him, so cute, reaching up for that bamboo. It says implementation of your brilliant new idea may get off to a rocky start, but keep going. Challenges will help you refine your plan and reshape your goals into something even better. I think this does very much correlate with all of this energy in Gemini once it conjuncts Uranus with all of this Uranus and Gemini energy, because it does say like brilliant new idea. And as I was mentioning before, Uranus, when I think of Uranus, it's like brilliance, intelligence, being able to tap into something and have like these crazy ideas. So yeah, in the beginning it might start off a little rocky. People may look at you crazy. People may not see the vision. You may not even know how to implement it. You may have this idea, you may have this vision, and you're like, well, how the heck am I even going to do that? Just start anywhere. Just wherever you feel called to go, just do it, and eventually the steps will continue to unveil themselves. Sorry, my words are just, my brain and my words are not really working well today. So yeah, overall the energy of the week, I like the energy of this week. Yes, it's a little chaotic. Yes, it's a little, unconventional, but overall I think it's going to bring a lot of really great new beginnings, a lot of great new ideas. And after we get through the beginning where the energy shifting might feel a little unstable, I think we're going to settle into this energy pretty well, and it's not going to feel too bad. So yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this reading. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know down in the comments if there's any video ideas that you have in mind, any topics in astrology that you have questions about and you would like to learn more about and you want me to make a video on it. Leave them down below and I will definitely make a video about them. I will make a list of all the different ideas that you guys have and I will make a video as soon as I can. So yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you guys in the next video.